What's going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. Let's get into the books I read this week. Very, very small week for you guys, but I got a few books read, so let's see what I thought about those. Starting over in Marvel, we have Chip Zdarsky's new Captain America issue #1 out right here. Now, Avengers Twilight, one of the best books of the year last year, featuring a more future state Captain America. This is more in the present day, although there is some weird things going on, right? It's not exactly present day. It says Legacy 772. Maybe I missed something. Clue me in, guys, but this is taking place post 9/11, just shortly after that. But we have a Captain America who's only been thawed for like a week. Iron Man's identity is still unknown right now. He's still in one of his early armor suits, and Cap's still getting reacclimated to the current day. So whatever the current day might be inside of here. There's no exact date that I perceived inside of here, but there's also some, hints here and there to show you when this is taking place. It has to do with post-traumatic stress. It has to do with the Captain America still getting used to the environment that he's in. People trying to understand who he really is, recognizing him on the streets. He's doing some cool heroic acts in the opening of this, just to kind of get you hooked, you know what I mean? And there's some story beats, like I said, to give you an idea of when this is taking place. There is a lot of inner monologue from Captain America himself and this mysterious other character that we explore throughout the issue. Very similar upbringing to Steve Rogers himself. And so we're going to see a pretty cool team put together very, very soon. It's almost like a second version of Captain America in a way. And we're going to be exploring that as we go through right there. So it's definitely a series that has me really interested in seeing like where it goes for sure. Some questions about when this takes place. Does it all make sense? Who knows? Maybe they just picked up the characters and shifted them a couple decades maybe, and kind of plopped them down in a post 9/11 world, which is pretty cool, I thought. Art was really engaging as well. So I think the story has a lot of questions still around it. Who are these other characters they're bringing into the mix right now? What is that team dynamic going to look like? I'm excited for that. So really good job with this issue #1, I thought, especially in a light week like this. What'd you guys think? All right, let's continue Marvel with Ultimate Wolverine issue #7 right here. So we had a really awesome issue previously where Wolverine gets knocked out of his whole Winter Soldier brainwashing from Legion himself. And Legion has taken on kind of a new role right now. He's almost like a being that people worship. He's like a mixture of AI. There's this consciousness around him. Really cool idea for the Ultimate Legion right there, but it's not really explored beyond that necessarily. So we pick up with Wolverine in this more clear headspace at the moment, trying to get reoriented with the team. He's done a lot of bad things, but he's a welcome member back into the team for sure, although people are giving him some side glances. So he's having to deal with all of that on top of recently being brainwashed and used as like a tool for destruction for so long. And that whole interaction with Wolverine and the team, that takes up the majority of the issue. There are some threads of like the doctors that prepared Logan to be the Winter Soldier are getting their comeuppance from that leadership, right? So we have like Magic and whatnot, all of them torturing and basically threatening the scientists that were involved around all of that. So we have two different threads coming on right now. Wolverine snapping out of it and being reacclimated to the team. And then we have the repercussions from the scientists not being able to find him and trying to keep that all under wraps from their superiors. So that's what's going on inside of there. So a decent issue. And we knew that Wolverine would eventually snap out of it, join our forces, and go from there. Are there more surprises coming? Because that was like the ultimate Wolverine component. He was the Winter Soldier. Now that we strip that away, now we just have to play in the landscape that we've created. And is that enough to like really keep the interest of the readers? I don't know. We're going to see in future issues. #7's out. Let me know what you guys thought. All right, let's jump over to DC next with Absolute Green Lantern. We have issue #4 right here. A series that's honestly hanging on by a thread, and I don't know what it needs to do to truly grip me, because we got a great team on here. The art is pretty cool. It's got like an anime-ish kind of a vibe to it, or a manga kind of a vibe to it. L. Ewing's on the writing right here. I think the story just needs to progress a little bit further. It doesn't have that shock value that some of the better Absolute books has, and I think Flash is in that same boat right now. But we have Eben Sewer, right? He's, putting a dome around this city. He's judging some folks. We understand a little bit more about what that means in here. And we have some of the characters playing around right now being imbued with their powers, and we see kind of like the origin story for some of those characters inside of here. We don't exactly know where the evil force, like the shadow force, is coming from with Hal, but we get to see some origin stories from some other characters, and I won't spoil that for you if you want to read that. that there. And like I mentioned, Ebensohr, he does go over like why he's doing the things he's doing, or like maybe a clarification of where people went. Were they truly destroyed? Were they not? Did they ascend? We get a hint to that inside of here. And it's not super satisfying. We don't get all the answers. And there is some flashback kinds of stuff, right? There's this flashback tale of what's going on. And then there's a flash forward to the present day where our characters are battling the powers that they're imbued with now. And, you know, they're just trying to survive the day and figure out what's going on in a more broader scale. I did pick up some hints with a crossover between Absolute Superman. So that's going to be kind of cool. They reference a particular group of people that are preoccupied with other things going on across the world right now. That's why they're not here taking over this scene. And so there's more villains and whatnot coming in to secure the situation and see what survivors are left and do whatever they want with them, essentially. So again, I mean, like, I'm not super excited to read this book. The story is kind of taking its time right now. We have good versus bad, but we don't exactly know like what is going on inside the universe. We're only 4 issues in. A lot of these books took some time, but I will say Wonder Woman and like Martian Manhunter, man, they grabbed us from the very first issue. I don't want to wait 4, 5, 6, 7 issues before I'm really sold on a concept, and it looks like we're heading that direction. Let me know what you guys thought about Absolute Green Lantern number 4 if you read it. Continuing DC, let's go over to the Black Label series with Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma right here. We have Ron V on this one, of course, Anad RK, and we have Mike Spicer. Book number 4, Jeff DeCal cover right there with the cardstock and everything. Awesome presentation on all of these. So Mitch, our Resurrection Man, he was killed in the very first issue by time itself. He died of old age, so he becomes a master of time, essentially. He ascends to this other plane where he can kind of perceive time and the inner workings of that differently. He meets a future version of himself. That's what he was told. And they got this grand plan to maybe recontextualize, change key moments in his past. He's the master of time now, so like, what do you do? He's exploring what that means in the last few issues, making some enemies and telling the reader about his past experiences along the way. One of the enemies he meets inside of the first issue, or helps create, I guess, rather, he's been slowly evolving over the last couple of issues, primarily in the previous issue, when Vandal Savage voluntarily gives him a piece of himself, making this new bad guy essentially immortal at the same time. And what does that mean when he combines all these different powers? What kind of destructive reach does he have? We see that inside the book, and it is devastating to say the least, wrapping up some other heroes in the process. So that was a really cool display of power and a formidable threat, all right? Like, what the heck do we do to take on this threat that has the ability to just wipe out planets almost, or cities at least, in the instance right here? He's also now starting to realize how sick and twisted his future version of himself really is, and what the ultimate plan is that he has, and the different machines and stuff that he's constructed. So it's a really cool issue where he's directly taking on this threat of like himself, what he might become when he abuses this power. But he's also taking on, he has to take on eventually this larger threat that is consuming worlds and cities and whatnot. So it's a pretty cool combination of threats that we have to deal with inside the issue. Great interior artwork, really complex story. Takes a little bit of time to like sort through it a little bit, but I think it's well worth it if you're not used to Resurrection Man or Rom V. Just know you're in for a treat. Let me know if you guys are reading this one. Wrapping up DC, we have Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong, volume number 2, issue number 2. That's a mouthful right there. So, I mean, the whole idea, let's just put this aside. The whole idea is ridiculous, right? Having all these different mashup of monsters and teams and whatnot. You throw the Legion of Doom in there and the Suicide Squad. You get like the X Task Force and all this craziness. It's really weird. So, what we do have going on here, though, is all the villains, whatever they want to call themselves, the X Task Force, the Suicide Squad, Legion of Doom, whatever they are, they have a plan right now to mess with a lot of the Titan genes and whatnot. And they're experimenting on Killer Croc. And we have basically a Killer Croc versus King Kong issue right here with the Justice League thrown into the mix at the same time. So what I don't like is like a lot of the banter back and forth between the heroes just doesn't seem very natural. They're not taking this threat super seriously. I feel like they could just dispatch these guys pretty quickly, team up, although some of them are depowered. We're in the center of the earth. We're in a weird space right now. I get all that, but like, it didn't feel like I'm reading like a normal Justice League book. Everyone felt pretty depowered, I would say. Now, when you mix all that with just the insane premise itself and the unclear motives of the villains and everything, it just leads to a confusing story that's just looking for an excuse to put Titan against Titan. And we saw that in the previous one, and it wasn't handled great then either. But now we're going to throw in this new element where we're trying to mimic this Titan formula and apply it to different people like Killer Croc and whatnot. So like the execution's not great. It's not a great book, but it's, you know, fun to read and see. You know what I mean? But like, don't feel like it's going to change your life at all, I would say. So I don't know, guys. Am I way off? Let me know down below if you read this one. All right, that's it for the big two. Let's go over to Oni Press. We have Playhouse issue number 4. So I'm having a decent time with this book. I think this book has a lot of great ideas inside of them. You know, it starts with some supernatural investigators, right? They go into these places that are supposed to be haunted. They bring recording devices or whatever else, and they just try to, you know, witness ghosts or trying to record some kind of evidence of their existence. Now, it evolves from there into something like, you know, whenever there's kind of death or destruction or trauma, how it permeates into the actual physical environment, and there's a longing or a need from that environment then to like get revenge on people or something like that. It's almost like the ooze from Ghostbusters too, you know, when there's enough negative energy around, it kind of forms into this goo in a way, but there's no goo here. It's basically like the aura of the place, and it can infect people's minds and make them do things they wouldn't otherwise do. So we're exploring that territory right here. There's people that are obsessed and completely taken over by this thing. And so we're learning about that some more and trying to figure out what we're going to do. And our main character right here, he has a really drastic way of maybe combating this or understanding it some more that he kind of goes through with at the very end of the book. And I'm actually excited to see where it goes from there. So I like all the concepts inside the book. The execution's a little bit muddy, but it gets the reader where they need to go. And again, there's some really good ideas inside the story. So I'm gonna be sticking around with Playhouse. This issue is pretty cool. Let me know if you guys read it. Then lastly, we have Illuminati issue number 1 from AWA. So listen to this creative team first off on here. So we have Brian Hill on the writing duties. Incredible writer. He does a really great job with like horror books in general, right? We have Charlemagne the God. So he's kind of putting together the story, generally speaking, maybe the plot and whatnot. We have pencils by Dennis Cohen, and we have inks by Sienkiewicz. And we have Marco Lasco on the colors as well, and Anworld on the letter design. So like, we got a great team on this book in general. So I don't know why this isn't getting more traction just from a hype perspective on the creative team. So it is a more of like a detective whodunit murder mystery kind of a thing. There's this one girl who was killed, and in a mysterious way, she was in the music industry, entertainment industry. She got wrapped into some bad dudes who maybe corrupted her. She was found dead, and her sister, her twin sister, is now kind of like investigating that murder, and she's trying to deal with all the shady characters that were in her sister's life and trying to figure out what's real and whatnot. And we have a little bit of a supernatural element thrown into here as well. Like the spirit of her sister is around, and she's trying to figure out like what that means, and she's getting instructions from her and whatnot. And so she's basing her actions on the interactions with her sister's spirit, and it's pretty cool, you know? The interior artwork works for me, man. You got some great talent on this, and I think it's cool. It's got some sketchiness to it. It's dark. It's got a great vibe to it, I would say, as well. Characters are all really well done. Environments are nice and everything, so it serves the purpose for sure. Not a whole lot of meat on the bone for the story, but we do get basically everything we need to know to set us up for subsequent issues. So it's kind of a sleeper hit, I would say. It wasn't like really, really enjoyable, like you must read this book, but it was better than I thought it was going to be in a small week like this. So let me know if you guys read this one down below. All right, guys, like I said, very, very small week, which is great because I get to catch up on some backlog stuff, so not too bad. Let me know what you guys read and what your favorite books of the week were down below. While you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted whenever I put out new videos. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the comments.